All right, hello, and welcome back to the Nothing Notable podcast. 49ers season review, off-season preview. We're making a little pivot here from our just normal NFL stuff, and we're zoning in on the 49ers because, why not? That's our team. That's what we really want to talk about. Crazy season the 49ers had. It's over. Tell me your thoughts here on the season we just had.
It was one of my favorite seasons in recent memory. It was so painful, and when a season goes as bad as it went for us at certain points, it makes the highlights even higher. When we did our first NFL season preview pod for this season, I predicted Bills 49ers in the Super Bowl. 49ers were going to win, obviously because we're homers, and so we're always going to take the 49ers.
That's also why this is just a 49ers podcast now.
Exactly.
Because we're homers.
But I really did believe that they could win the Super Bowl, and they did end up proving that they could. But then at the midseason point, when we did the midseason review, I said there is no chance, there's a 0% chance that the 49ers will make it to the Super Bowl. Technically, I ended up correct.
Technically correct.
But it was because at that point in the season, they were not very good. It was trending downward. We were questioning Kyle at points. We obviously were questioning Jimmy. And then we turned it around. We make it into the playoffs. We beat the Cowboys, one of the top offenses, again, proving our defense is legit. And then we play the Green Bay Packers, one of the best offenses, NFL MVP, Aaron Rodgers. Shut them down. And then we run up against the Rams and we outplay them for the majority of the game. So I do feel like we were one of the best teams this season. And for that, I am very proud. I feel like we left it all on the field. The Rams got the better of us. I have nothing negative to say about the Rams today. We've clowned on their ass, but today they are Super Bowl champions, so I will say nothing negative about that team. They did it. We did not. But we're going to clown their ass next year. So basically, I'm very proud of this season. I love the guys that we had on this team. I think that we accomplished something. Despite not winning it all, we very much accomplished something. We proved a lot. And I think that the upcoming season is going to be so exciting. So I'm really looking forward to what's coming next.
Just all around, going back to last March now at this point, last January, really, after the 2020 season ended. This whole offseason and into this season has maybe been one of the most fun that there's ever been for us in our 49ers fandom lifetime. Everything from all the crazy quarterback rumors in the offseason. Are we getting Matt Stafford? Are we getting Deshaun Watson? What's going to happen to trading up in the draft and the whole, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, Justin Field debate that was going on. Getting Trey, seeing him in training camp just kind of be like, oh, okay, yeah, there's all that talent there. And then we get to the season and, the first 8 weeks of the year were goddamn rough.
Yeah.
Lost 4 games in a row at one point. Lost to Colt McCoy. Crazy playoff games, almost losing to the Cowboys after being up. But then, they fucking spiked the ball with no time left on the clock. A blocked punt against the Packers, which was maybe one of the most, shocking plays I have seen as a fan because I had no hope at that point in that game. I'm like, okay, we're done. It is what it is. We can't move the ball at all. Whatever. We'll just accept the facts. And then nope, Jordan Willis is blocking it. And then
Hufanga Hive, rise up.
Yeah. And then, couldn't get it done against the Rams. When I was watching the Super Bowl yesterday, when it ended, my one thought was damn, this team is so close to being here. And this team could have won this game that was played. And I'm very excited going forward for next year. I would like to fast forward to 6 months from now. I'm so excited.
Yeah, especially because there was a lack of clarity this previous offseason, which is what made it so exciting because we weren't sure what's going on with Jimmy Garoppolo, like you already said. This season there is clarity, which I think helps us as a team because now we go into the season, we know that Trey Lance is the guy, unless it's Tom Brady. No, we don't want that. But we have that clarity. So we know what to expect now, sort of. There's going to be growing pains for Trey, obviously, but we know that he is going to be the starting quarterback. He'll have a full off season to get ready. And we can sort of project based on how we were this season with very poor quarterback play, how we will be next season with superior quarterback play. And And I think you tweeted this, that like if the Niners got Matt Stafford, they would have won the Super Bowl, or someone else did. I don't know if that was you.
It was me. I'm sure someone else also tweeted it, but
so I mean, that is obviously true. If we had a better quarterback, we would have won the Super Bowl. Because I do feel, again, no shade to the Rams. I think that the Bengals played better than the Rams for the majority of the game. And I think that the Bengals very easily could have won that game. So I don't think that the best team in the NFL won the Super Bowl this year. Again, they won the Super Bowl though, so no shade. But I do feel like this 49ers team, the weapons that they have, the defense that they have, the coaching staff that they have, all of it together, you add in Trey Lance next season, I do think that the sky is the limit. I do truly expect them to be Super Bowl contenders next season. Coming into this season, it was sort of a pipe dream. You know, I was sort of just being a homer, but like this upcoming season, I do think it's very real. So I will be disappointed if we are not at least in the conference championship game.
Right. And I think, they'll have a little bit of money to spend this offseason, which brings us, thanks to Jimmy Garoppolo.
God bless.
Let's start there with this offseason preview. Jimmy is 99% going to be gone. I guess there's that 1% chance that like maybe he's still here. Seems highly unlikely. Seems like Jimmy has certainly indicated that his time here is done. The team seems to be doing that too. First, give me your thoughts on the Jimmy Garoppolo era here in San Francisco, and then we can talk about possible destinations for him.
The Jimmy Garoppolo era was a positive era. It was an era of stability, despite the fact that he didn't play at all and offered no stability. Because Kyle takes over, the roster, people are not going to ever remember this unless they're diehard 49ers fans, but like the roster that we had Kyle's first year, Kyle Shanahan, head coach of the San Francisco 49ers, good close personal friend of ours, future podcast guest of ours.
Absolutely.
That first season, our roster was so bad. We really, we found some guys that would become really key depth guys, and we drafted very well. But like the core players on that team were so bad. So we had no hope at quarterback. We needed to find a quarterback. It was going to be Kirk Cousins. Jimmy Garoppolo becomes available. We only give up a second round pick for him. So we end up paying him a big contract, but every year a big contract becomes a small contract because the contracts just get bigger and bigger. Obviously, if we had a better quarterback, we would have won 2 Super Bowls, 3 Super Bowls, 4 Super Bowls. we could have won Super Bowls, but I mean, you can't play the hindsight game like that. You know, what was our other option? Kirk Cousins, maybe, but we have no indication that we would have fully gotten him. So giving up a second round pick for Jimmy Garoppolo, we get high level quarterback play for 2 full seasons. He's unfortunately injured for the other seasons, but those seasons did feel sort of like character building seasons. Through the losses, a lot of our best players were forged, in that fire they were forged. So it was a mixed bag, but I will look back positively on it, despite the fact that I do think we could have been the Rams this season. We could have had a Super Bowl or 2.
Yeah. I think for me, when I look back on this era, it'll not be as bad as I thought it was and not as good as I thought it was either. The highs won't be like as high as like I remember them being in the moment. The lows won't be as low as they were. Jimmy can play football.
Professional football player.
He's, and if you put a good team around him, you can win a lot of games. And, obviously we're not in that locker room. We're not around that team every single day. The people in that locker room speak so highly of Jimmy. And, I've never met the man.
Never met that man before in my life.
Never met him. But like, it seems like everyone really does love him, and he's a good dude and a good leader. And, I appreciate him bringing like a sense of stability to this organization. And like, it'd be corny to say like he brought us hope, but like in many ways, like him being like just good enough, like made us think that like, oh, we can win a bunch of games.
Yeah.
And like, I really do appreciate that, because the Tom Sula, Chip Kelly era was not good.
Real low points.
Those were real low points. Those teams were not good to watch. And like, I at least felt that going into every season with Jimmy, I thought we had a chance to make the playoffs. And that's not something to take lightly.
He did give the team confidence. he inspired confidence in his teammates, but also he inspired confidence in the fans because he is a competent quarterback. And so to be able to pick him up the way that we did, especially the teacher that he had, who was Tom Brady, it gave us the confidence that, like, okay, we have a quarterback now. We know Kyle Shanahan is a genius offensive play caller. We've got killer running backs that we could just find, undrafted free agents or late round draft picks. This offense will move, and like we've got some studs on defense. We could put this together now. So yeah, it gave us the confidence going into each season that like we could do something, even though we knew Jimmy's limitations. I think what's funny though is about the Jimmy G era is like by the end of this season, we were fully aware of his limitations and accepted them. Early on though, it was full denial.
Right.
Part of the reason is because you accept the fact like, oh, okay, he's new to the system, give him a full year in the system. He gets injured. Okay, well then how about 2019? Ooh, really good season. Not great. Still has issues. He'd like to see the bad throws go down in
the Jimmy oh no nos.
The Jimmy oh no nos. That's exactly.
Every time it's just like, oh no.
Yeah, they're just, and it's not even
one of those a game.
Yeah, just fluttering awful passes that just go right to the linebacker or to the safety. So we saw those, but we very much denied them in the moment. And so I think there is, when he came in, he brought clarity. As he leaves, he also provides clarity. We can look back on this now as it was, I guess. And so to Jimmy Garoppolo, I say thank you for your service. Thank you for what you provided. I have no negative thoughts towards Jimmy Garoppolo. I have some negative thoughts about other quarterbacks, but not Jimmy Garoppolo. He gave us everything he could, and his limitations, you can't really fault him for it. That's just who he is as a quarterback. And so, so we'll see where he goes now,
Where will he go? If one of the good things that came out from this year is I feel like Jimmy did rehab a little bit of his trade value.
Yeah.
Not even necessarily by like his stellar play on the field, because it was far from that, but like him being competent and the team winning games. And it seems like there's like enough people around the NFL who really like the guy and think like he is a average to above average quarterback. They're going to get something for him on the trade market. There's a bunch of teams who need quarterbacks, teams who want to win now too. I think I counted 6 of them before this when I was just thinking. We got the Broncos, the Bucks, the Colts are now in that mix, the Steelers, Washington football team, or the Washington, what are they, the Commanders?
Commanders now, that's
the Washington
right.
Commanders, and then the Panthers. I think those were the 6 teams I was thinking of who will be trying to win next year, because either like that's just like they're winning teams like the Steelers and the Bucks, or they're teams like the Panthers or the Commanders who their coaches might get fired if they don't win.
Yeah.
Any of those teams stick out to you as nice options for Jimmy?
The obvious answer, and the answer that like I think we've all been thinking for multiple years now, is the Steelers. As it just so happens, every 49ers franchise that I make in Madden, I end up trading Jimmy Garoppolo to the Steelers, and it works out and it makes sense because the timetable of Ben Roethlisberger leaving and Jimmy Garoppolo's contract and everything, it just seems to work like the glove just fits perfectly. And so I do think that the Steelers make a lot of sense. Obviously, if you're Mike Tomlin, you're that front office, you look at Jimmy Garoppolo and you say he is definitively, without question, 100% better than what we've been getting out of Ben Roethlisberger the last few years. I think the question is, can he give you enough of the best of Ben Roethlisberger? Because the Pittsburgh Steelers have been a winning franchise for a number of years. Super Bowl wins, though, Ben Roethlisberger was like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL those seasons. He was very, very good. Do you think that Jimmy can get you there? The answer is probably no. He can't get to the peaks of Ben Roethlisberger, but does that matter? Is the team good enough around Jimmy Garoppolo to get him to the Super Bowl? The Niners obviously proved that is very much possible.
Right. And I think the goal really is like to get to the dance. Like you get in the playoffs and then like anything can happen. You might get a blocked punt in a game where your offense literally can't do anything.
Right.
And then you get like one other good drive. Like if you get to the playoffs, you have a chance to win the Super Bowl. That's all you're looking for. And I think if Jimmy went to Pittsburgh, I think they have a good shot to make the playoffs, despite like how tough that division is still. I like the Colts for him too, which is a team that has just emerged in the last couple days. I don't know, like, I haven't looked at the cap numbers for any of these teams, and I know Jimmy's going to make like $27 million next year. It's the final year of his deal. I wouldn't be surprised if, like, upon him being traded, there's some sort of like contract restructure that goes on with his team to like add on another year or two maybe, and lower his cap hit, but give him more like guaranteed money overall. Indianapolis would make a lot of sense to me because they have a great running game. They have some pretty good receivers over there too. Good defense. Good offensive line. It fits what you need to make Jimmy work. And in that division that's not very good, I think they would still be able to compete for a division title with him. And Jimmy wouldn't lose to the Jags in the last week of the season like Carson Wentz did. So I don't know. That one stands out to me as a really intriguing option.
I think the division point is really key as well. I think if you're going to trade for a quarterback, you should ask yourself, like, where would that quarterback rank in our division if we ended up with him? And Lamar Jackson is obviously number one. You can make a case that Jimmy would be pretty much a clear number two.
No. Joe Burrow's number two.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, the Bengals are in then Joe Burrow's number one.
Joe Burrow's probably number one.
Yeah, I forgot about the Bengals.
You can 1A, 1B. You can swap. Depends on what version of Lamar you're getting. That's a story for a different day. But.
Yeah. So Jimmy would then firmly be third in that camp. Again, Jimmy sort of is like a weird enigma because like everyone knows his limitations. You're not trading for the best quarterback in the NFL, but everyone unanimously agrees like you could win with him and you could win a Super Bowl potentially, even though he has not won a Super Bowl, but he came damn close. He keeps Pittsburgh competitive, and that's the key. And like, what are your other options? It's not like the thing I like about Pittsburgh particularly is they're losing a quarterback. They're not changing. It's not the Browns who have Baker Mayfield and are looking around at like what a better option would be, because then you're taking sort of a gamble. The option is no quarterback or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah, it's like Mason Rudolph or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Right. So and then
no quarterback or
right with the Colts. They've pretty much decided that they're going to get rid of Carson Wentz, but they still have Carson Wentz. So you look at Carson Wentz versus Jimmy Garoppolo. I would definitely take Jimmy Garoppolo. Carson Wentz does have really high highs though. You have to make the cap work on that one. It's the teams where like there is no better choice that I like the option for, because I can see the Colts sticking with Carson Wentz another season. I know that the reports are that they want to move off of him, but they could very easily talk themselves into the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo is not that significantly better. I do like him there though.
Yeah.
I think that both of those options would be good for the teams and for Jimmy. Washington is interesting because like on pay, if we're looking at the 2020 defense of the Washington Commanders, formerly Washington football team, formerly something else, then that team makes a lot of sense. But if we're not getting that defense, then I think that that's going to be
their defense was really bad this year.
It was really bad. So I think that actually might turn into an absolute nightmare for what Jimmy provides, because the 49ers defense was able to erase the mistakes that Jimmy Garoppolo made. He throws 13 interceptions. If we look back, I'm sure we did not let the team score 13 times off of those interceptions. So if the defense can't make up for his mistakes, then it's going to be just abysmal and miserable, and he's going to turn into like a bottom quarterback in the NFL. So I don't totally love Washington. There are other teams that I don't think will really be in on the sweepstakes. Like if the Packers lose Aaron Rodgers, that makes sense because of LaFleur, similar-ish offense. New Orleans, it looks like they're going to go full rebuild, but they could use a quarterback. There's a bunch of teams.
I forgot about them as a team too.
There's a bunch of teams that could ask, which then just generates more return for Jimmy Garoppolo. So if we traded him last year coming into this season, I think we would not have gotten very much. But now there are a lot of teams that are quarterback desperate, and there's not a lot of better options, because going into this offseason, who do we have going into? Let's exclude Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, because you'd have to trade for them.
Let's take Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Deshaun Watson out of there, because who knows? Jameis Winston, who is coming off a torn ACL. Mitch Trubisky,
Uh-huh.
Teddy Bridgewater, Marcus Mariota. Those are the like ones who could potentially be vying for starting jobs this year. I think I would take Jimmy over all of those guys.
I've never been a Jameis Winston fan, so yeah, no, I think Jimmy is clearly the best option there. I think that Jimmy makes sense for a lot of these teams, whereas like Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers you'd have to move a lot to make that happen. And I don't know if a lot of teams are actually willing to do that. I feel like there's a smaller number of teams vying for those two guys than we might think.
Yeah, because you're going to have to give up probably 2 to 3 first-round picks for those guys. Maybe more than that. Might have to add in some young players or whatever, because they are star quarterbacks, and that's hard to find in the league. The Rams gave up 2 first-round picks for Matt Stafford. Granted, part of that was the Lions taking Jared Goff's contract too. But still, I don't know what Jimmy's going to go for on the market. My gut right now says a second-round pick plus maybe like another late pick, like a 5th-round pick or something like that.
Yeah, maybe like a conditional pick.
Right. I don't think it's out of the question that the 49ers could receive a first-round pick if they give up like a 3rd-round pick with Jimmy or something like that. I don't think that's preposterous to see happen.
I think what's interesting, I agree with that. I think what's interesting is, do we trade, like what is the trade package on our end? Is it just Jimmy Garoppolo for a or 2 picks? Or do we package him with something else to get like a good first-round pick, like in this upcoming draft, for example?
So there was a report today that like Washington could, an NFL executive said Washington could justify giving up the 11th pick for Jimmy Garoppolo. If that was to happen, I would guess that the 49ers would give up their 2nd-round pick with Jimmy to get 11, and then maybe like they do all these weird things where it's like you get a 1st and a 4th for whatever. They might tack in like a late round pick with it too. But I could see like if you combine Jimmy with the 2nd-round pick, which is going to be pick like 60 or something like that, that you could get a 1st-rounder for him, like a top 15, 16 1st-rounder.
Yeah, and there are some guys also that I feel like on the team we could throw into that package as well if we didn't want to give up like a super good draft pick. If we want to throw Jimmy a 5th and like some other guy that like might fill a need for a team, I feel like we have a number of those guys. I don't want to see us shake up anything, obviously. So like I don't want to see us lose a key rotational guy on defense or something like that. But I'm interested to see how creative we get on our end, because we could end up with a really good draft pick this offseason, and that would be pretty darn significant, especially if we're not able to re-sign some of the guys that we want to re-sign.
So let's talk about that now.
Killer segue.
We'll talk about re-signing before we head into, we'll wrap this up in a little bit. We'll have our re-signing. We'll do some free agency stuff, and then maybe a little bit of draft stuff, just vague stuff, targets, whatever. Re-signing. They have a bunch of free agents this year. Luckily, the core guys are all kind of locked in, but like your Laken Tomlinsons, your DJ Jones, Kawan Williams, Jaquaski Tart, Arden Key. They got a bunch of like these like quote unquote role players, so to speak, if we were talking in like NBA terms.
Yeah.
Which guy or guys are you putting like priority re-signs on?
Laken Tomlinson on offense, and then Kawan Williams on defense. The reason for Laken is obvious. It's because he's one of the best left guards in the NFL. He's extremely consistent. He's incredibly important for what the Niners run game does. And then on defense, having a really talented slot corner is really helpful. And I don't think he's going to go for like above market value. Like I don't think that anyone else is going to value Williams as much as we do. Maybe that's not true. Maybe someone's going to sneak out and offer him like a stupid contract. But when he is healthy, he is very good. And I think re-signing a cornerback is very important, because like you'd like to draft a cornerback as well and like pick up a cornerback in free agency, but like let's definitely retain him, because whether or not he plays a full season, I think that he's very important. I think what's interesting though is like when we lost Richard Sherman, that was a big thing in the moment. It's like, how are we going to even field a team? Like this doesn't make any sense. Who do we have? Verrette goes down, so then it's just E-Man, and then it's like, oof, what do we got now?
Don't you dare say his name.
I'm not gonna say. But it ended up not being as big of a loss. Like, I think if we had Richard Sherman, it would have helped. But I sort of feel that way about Tart a little bit. I think Tart's really good, and like everyone on the team loves him, and I think he's a very smart player, and like he makes a lot of big plays. But I do feel like we'd be able to replace him with Hufanga or draft a guy or sign another guy for a cheaper contract. So there are some guys that I feel like it would be nice to re-sign, but are not necessarily priorities for me. It's those two and a couple of other guys that I'm sure you'll mention now.
Yeah, I would like to see Lakin back if the price is right. I kind of just have a feeling that he won't be back though, and that was part of the reason why they drafted Aaron Banks last year, who was a left guard in college. I don't know if they'll want to pay 10 to 12 million for a guard. It's not something they've done in the past really. So we'll see if that happens, but I'd like to see Lakin back because I think he is one of the better left guards in the game. K1, I'm okay with letting him walk if it's cheap. I think maybe part of it is health, but I felt like down the stretch, especially in the playoffs, like he was not very good, and he kind of can't go backwards anymore. Like he was getting beat over the top, especially like in the deep red zone situations.
Yeah, he looked rough in the playoffs.
Yeah, so I don't know. Again, like part of all of this, like whether you're evaluating free agency or the draft, is like as an outsider, you don't have access to like medicals and all that stuff. So I don't know like what his health situation is like, but I wouldn't, if he doesn't come back, I'm not like upset about it. Same thing with Kwaski. I love Kwaski, but like I think there's some better free agent safeties out there that can go get or draft someone. A guy for me who I'd really like to see them bring back is DJ Jones. Yeah. Because I think he's such an impact player on the interior defensive line. And I think what we're learning more and more as the last couple seasons have gone on, just with football in general, is having a bunch of guys on the defensive line who you can rotate in and out is so key. Yeah. And especially with our goddamn mad dog defensive line coach, like who does great work. Chris Corsick does incredible work with all these defensive linemen that they've brought in the last few years. I have visions of a DJ Jones and a healthy Javon Kinlaw being a dynamic duo on the interior defensive line. God has revealed those visions to me. But yeah, he's a big guy. He's a big guy to bring. He's a big guy.
He is a big guy.
But he's also, I think he's a really important piece to that defensive line. Two more guys who were hurt this year, but who I would bring back on, cheap deals if the market isn't running their prices up. But I would bring Jason Verrette back. Yep. Only on a cheap deal because you can't really trust him to stay healthy at this point. But he is a above average starting caliber corner. Yeah. And I would bring Raheem Mostert back because I think they really did miss his speed on some of the outside zone stuff that they like to do. And Elijah Mitchell was great this year. I also don't know if he will be able to sustain the volume of carries that he got this last year. So those are, I ran down a bunch of guys, but those are guys I want to see come back if the price is right.
With DJ Jones, I think he's huge for this team as well.
He is huge.
But I do wonder what, and this is just completely open-ended, but I wonder what the team thinks of Javon Kinlaw. If they felt like he made big strides before he got injured, if they think that he could take over. If they don't feel like that's the case, then I think that it's absolutely a huge priority that they get DJ Jones back. But I think if we don't re-sign him, I think it'll say a lot about what the team thinks of Javon Kinlaw, and whether or not he could take over that interior defensive line spot, and then we just move other guys around. So that'll be very interesting to see just what the team thinks. Then Raheem Mostert, I love the guy. I would love to bring him back because he is, when he's healthy, look at what he did in the playoffs against the Packers. The Packers are a tissue soft defense, but he is absolutely electrifying. And speed like that is is absolutely killer in a Kyle Shanahan offense. You get him to the edge. You see this with Deebo Samuel, and Deebo Samuel doesn't even have exceptional speed, but he's got
good game speed.
He's got game speed, and he's got grown ass man speed. You get Deebo Samuel to the edge and like just let him work, and that sort of is the whole thing. It sort of is an empowering offense for the physical talents of these players. You just get them in space and then let them go, and so it would be nice to have Raheem Mostert back. I would imagine there's not going to be a ton of offers coming his way because he hasn't been healthy the entire time he's been here. Yeah, if we could get him back for cheap, that would be stellar, because you have to assume, if you're a 49ers fan going into a season, that there will not be one running back playing all 17 games. So assume we're going to get 400 yards of Raheem Mostert, 600 yards of Elijah Mitchell, and then 400 yards of an undrafted rookie, and then Trey Sermon as well is in that mix as well. So yeah, I would love to see all of that as well. And then who was the other person that you just mentioned?
Verrette.
Yeah, Verrette, easy re-sign. Nobody else is going to pick him up for more than is necessary. Verrette was one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, full stop, when he was healthy. So if we bring him back, you even see the value. There's value beyond just the player playing the game. Raheem Mostert was huge for Elijah Mitchell this season. He was just a big, smiling, happy, intelligent dude on the sideline, hyping him up, teaching him, and helping him along. So that was huge for Elijah Mitchell. You saw that with Emmanuel Sanders when Emmanuel Sanders was teaching up Deebo Samuel. So there's value in having Verrette back, because like we do have young corners, and if we do lose Williams, that's one less veteran cornerback to have. So Verrette can teach these guys a lot. I think that he was probably pretty big in Ambry Thomas's success this year, as was Williams, as any of the vets were probably huge. So these cheap veteran contracts, I'm all about re-signing those guys.
The cap's also not real.
That's so true.
At least on like a 1 year basis, like the cap's not real. There's, people say what I just said all the time, that the cap's not real, but like eventually there are consequences of it. Like the Saints couldn't re-sign Trey Hendrickson this year because of the cap, and he was like an all-pro caliber.
Yeah.
And so like eventually, like, all these cap gymnastics do come back to bite you. But for 1 year, like, you can make anything work. And by my initial calculations, they'll have like 45 to 50 million after they trade Jimmy. If you have Eric Armstead's numbers are going to get worked out, because I think he's scheduled to have like a $20 million cap hit. Probably won't be like that when it gets to the season. D Ford is another guy who, like, if they release him on a post June 1st designation, because I would love to see D Ford play. I don't think it's going to happen. At
this point, it is sort of just like a waste, I think, to even bother us, because as long as, like, we saw this with the Warriors when we kept saying, like, oh, Kevin Durant's going to come back in time for the finals. We're waiting for Kevin Durant. And then he comes back and then gets re-injured. And it's like, oh, shoot, like, maybe we should have had a plan B.
Right.
Like, we shouldn't have had to, this should not have been plan A. So with D Ford, it's like, yeah, we would love to have him be like a starting caliber edge rusher, or at least go in on third down situations when we're going to send the rush. But you really just can't expect that to happen. And I guess you could say the same thing with Raheem Mostert as well, but I think running back is different than the defensive end. So I think just even having that roster spot is maybe unnecessary.
It's also that, like, D Ford's cap number, if like he stays with the team, is going to be like 12 million or something like that.
Insane.
Yeah. If they release him with a post June 1st designation, they save like 7 million against the cap. So I foresee that happening. So they'll have some money to spend in free agency, which my big overarching theme for free agency this year is that I'm hoping the 49ers look at what the Rams have done, where they've been aggressive and gone out and gotten impact players. They've mostly done that through trades, but I would like to see the 49ers kind of adopt that same mentality where they're like not afraid to spend a little money. I think this regime's first couple years here, they spent like lots of money on guys like Malcolm Smith and Jerick McKinnon and Pierre Garçon. They gave D Ford, the big contract.
Quan Alexander.
They had a bunch of these big deals that like just didn't work out. I think they've gotten a little like trigger shy from it. And I would like them to see them go out and get some like big time impact players. Definitely
agree. The guys, once we get into the offseason closer to it, towards free agency, we'll go over some like actual guys.
Because there's also like, there's more players who will be available than scheduled to be now because teams release players and all that jazz.
Right. But as in terms of like positions, like cornerback is definitely huge for us. I think that with the amount of money that we have available to spend, if we're going to go big spenders at any particular position, I would like it to be cornerback, because it would be nice to, and not just like on a 1-year deal sort of thing. We don't go out and get like a 32-year-old cornerback. That's
Casey Hayward's great, but like, he's going to be here 1 year, 2 years.
Yeah. And like, if you end up signing him for like something that is reasonably priced, like, yeah, that's fine.
I would love to see Casey Hayward here on like a 1 year, $6 million deal.
Yeah, that would be fantastic.
But what I would love more is if they broke the bank and got JC Jackson.
Yes, I would like to get somebody that is, because what I want is, I want the Jimmy Garoppolo effect. I want stability at the cornerback position, because like this season, it was like, oh my God, we've got Emmanuel Mosley, thank God. But on the other side of him, like, who is playing? It ended up being the man who shall not be named for much of the season. And then Ambry Thomas really grew into his own and started to take over. So I would love to see Emmanuel Mosley, Ambry Thomas get lots of playing time, but I would also just like to have a solidified multi-year cornerback so that we know going into each game, each season, we have somebody that is competent and we don't have to worry about. I think that would help a tremendous amount. So I would like to see us spend a lot of money at cornerback. Other positions, we've got our quarterback. I'd like to spend some money on a good backup quarterback.
I know one.
Go for it. Say it.
I've been waiting for this day for many years now. But I think the idea of Tyrod Taylor being on the 49ers roster is no longer a pipe dream, people. Especially with them bringing in Anthony Lynn to be the assistant head coach. I think there's a good chance it happens. And I say what you will about Tyrod. He's not the greatest player in the world. We all know this. We've talked about this before. Pro Tyrod Taylor podcast.
Very pro.
But he's a veteran guy who's been around and has like done well enough everywhere he's been, and has been around a lot of young quarterbacks too at this point. You know, Baker Mayfield and Justin Herbert and Davis Mills in Houston. And I feel like if something were to happen where Trey went down, like I feel comfortable that like Tyrod's not going to screw us over in a game.
Right. And also, you know, the value of having Trey sit behind Jimmy this year was huge. Trey has talked about that. And if Jimmy wasn't making the amount of money that he was making, it would be nice to have him back for that value. I think we get that value if we sign Tyrod Taylor, because I do think that Tyrod has the same sort of effect. He's a very competent NFL quarterback, not as good as Jimmy, but he's a competent NFL quarterback. Like you said, he's seen a lot of different situations. He knows how the game works. He knows Anthony Lynn. He knows he'll be a facilitator of that line of communication, and any of the offense that Anthony Lynn brings in to Kyle's offense. And then on top of that, I think that he is a very genuine guy, as far as I could tell. We follow him on Instagram. Shout out. So I think that he would be like a really good presence. So I don't know what he'll be going for this offseason. It won't be like crazy money or anything, but like, do it. Like, if it's not Tyrod, then like get someone else that's as competent, but like spend the money. Don't go into the season with like an undrafted free agent quarterback as your backup. Don't go in with Nate Sudfeld as your backup. I would like to see something, because the whole thing this offseason was like, let's solidify the quarterback room. Obviously we're drafting for the future, but also for now, because Jimmy's health is a concern. You want to have a good quarterback room. I think that this is an underrated thing for a lot of teams. You want to have a good backup quarterback. So spend that money.
Yeah. A couple other positions that stand out to me. I would like to see them. I want to know what they're thinking at guard. We've talked about Lakin. We'd like to see him back. I would like to see Dan Brunskill back almost regardless, just because I think he's like a really like quality backup offensive lineman, and those are hard to find. The big key is going to be Aaron Banks, and no one really knows anything about him because like he did not play a single snap this year. Do they think that he can step in and be a starting guard? Because if he can be, then it's just like, okay, you re-sign Lakin, and then you plug Aaron Banks on the other side. If he can't be, then it's like, okay, we got to go find ourselves a guard now. And I think most of their needs they're going to try to address in free agency, which is, from one hand, I think that's how you should do it. I think fill your holes on your roster in free agency, and then in the draft, I think drafting best player available is kind of just like a win-win strategy at this point. But also just like with how Kyle has felt about, or seemingly felt about rookies the last couple of years, I don't know if this team with Super Bowl aspirations would bring in rookies for any more than just like rotational duties at this point. So I don't think like they'd draft a guard to be the starter, especially after they drafted one last year. So guard's a big spot for me. And then I would also like to see them, I want to see them get another really good defensive lineman, another good edge rusher to put across from Bosa. Whether that be like a Chandler Jones or a Hassan Reddick or someone like that. Like I want them to, I love all these rotational guys they get, like Arden Key, I'd bring him back too. But like if they could get like a true, like solidified, like top level, not top level, but like a B tier pass rusher, I think that'd be really great.
Yeah, especially because like Nick Bosa is doubled on so many plays, and he still ends up with, what was it, 14 and a half, 15 and a half sacks?
Something crazy.
Yeah, just a remarkable season. So and we saw this with Justin Smith, when we had Justin Smith, Alden Smith, and Ahmad Brooks and that whole defensive line. Justin Smith would eat dudes. And I feel like DJ Jones does that. A lot of our rotational guys also do that. Like they eat up offensive linemen, which allows the best of our pass rushers to get through. And Eric Armstead also does that. Getting somebody that doesn't just eat up defensive linemen, but also like really gets around. And that's what D Ford was. That'd be huge. Because I feel like if we do bring back DJ Jones, if we do have a healthy Kinlaw, if we do have Eric Armstead, those guys are big and they'll eat. So now let's get a real pass rusher that can win on at the point of attack there. So I love rotational pieces there. Safety, it would be nice to get like a guy, whether we think Havanga is a starter or not, get a guy that's cheaper than Tart.
I will say this about Hufanga, just real quick. I love Hufanga. I've made that very clear.
Yeah.
Both on and off the pod. I like him more though if he's like how they used him this year when they had 3 safeties on the field and he was closer to the line of scrimmage. I like that a lot. I don't know how great he is as a drop back, like middle third of the field guy. So yeah, I think safety is also an area where they need to find someone to plug in there and start.
Yeah, I think you could get away with, I guess what my point was sort of about like cornerback versus defensive line versus safety was just like there are positions where you can get rotational guys and you could work it because our defense is, all of our defensive staff is just incredible, and like the D'Amico is amazing and very smart, and so they'll be able to rotate based on situation. And then on offense, it would be nice to get another receiver.
Well, especially if they're going to continue to play Debo at running back, then like you kind of have like 1.5 of your starting wide receivers right now,
right? Because
like Ayuk's great. I don't know what happened the beginning of the year, but like Ayuk's an incredible receiver. Debo, incredible, but like when Debo's at running back, you need another receiver in there.
We kind of reveal our hand a little bit too when Debo does go in at running back. He's so dominant, it doesn't really matter if the defense is ready for it or not, but like we'll put in a guy like Trent Sherfield, who's like a really good blocker, and who we put in games to block primarily. We don't send him on a ton of primary routes. So I feel like the defense is able to key in on that fact that they see this guy come in and it's like, okay, we don't have to respect that part of the field as much. Again, just having another guy, like you said, especially when Debo is in at running back, would be tremendously helpful. And I feel like there's a number of guys that we could get on the cheap that would make sense for this team. And then I'm always curious about tight end, like what our philosophy is on tight end, because George Kittle is phenomenal. He is going to be injured for at least 3 games next year. I like Dwelly, our number 1 tight end, dynamic, pass catcher, blocker, all of it. Our backup tight ends, blockers. That sort of is like our philosophy. They can catch, but like they are in for blocking. I wonder if we could go out and find or draft another like real pass catcher at tight end, because I don't know what Dwelly or Warner's contract
I
situation
think
is.
Dwelly's a free agent, or restricted free agent, and Warner is a exclusive rights free agent.
Yeah, so I wonder if there's a way that we could get better at the backup position there, because remember when we had Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker? I mean, that was just unreal for the 49ers. So maybe look around for that. That's not a huge priority, but like, let's look around for it.
Let me give you a buy low guy.
Sure.
Who is, was a first round draft pick, has disappointed so far in his career. I'm intrigued at the idea of maybe bringing in Evan Ingram, just as truly like a buy low guy. Cause yeah, like I feel like Kittle's going to miss 2 to 3 games at least. And like Evan Ingram, not nearly the blocker that Kittle is, but like you could still get some production out of the tight end position there.
Yeah. I think what's key is they have, like I said, they have told us now time and time again that they want their backup tight ends to be exceptional blockers. So it'll have to be somebody that is a very good blocker. And also is a pass catcher as I want. So like those guys go for high dollar amounts. So you'll probably have to get a buy low guy. I would imagine we would re-sign Dwelly, because Dwelly does do a lot of the stuff that we want. But again, if you could go out and find another guy, that'd be really helpful, I think.
Yeah, or maybe you find a tight end in the draft.
Yeah.
That's a possible position they could address in this year's draft. Maybe you spend a 3rd or 4th round pick on a tight end. From what I gather, this is a very good tight end draft class. I would like to see them address all these needs primarily in free agency, and then whatever you have left to fill, use the draft to get that.
Yeah, exactly. So we named almost all the positions, but
I want one of everything.
But I think as we've talked about, the keys are cornerback, rotational defensive lineman. We have to figure out what's going on with guard first, and then address that, and then from there, just fill some spots, because we do have we have all of our key guys.
Yeah. I'm very excited for this offseason. I'm very excited for the future of this team. Trey Lance, I think, is going to be an absolute star. I can't wait for, Kyle to get more comfortable with him after a full offseason of like, okay, this is our guy. The future is bright in San Francisco. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want more 49ers content, give us a like, give us a comment, tell us what you would like the 49ers to do. You can find me on Twitter at Jack Hubert Sucks, always talking about the 49ers, just constantly. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.